This episode of Strong Talk is brought to you by StartingStrongman.com. Go to StartingStrongman.com for all your news, information, and contest results in the sport of strongman, how to train, compete, and just follow the sport as well. Go to store.startingstrongman.com to purchase ebooks such as The Cube Method, Built by Mike Westerling, and more. Go to startingstrongman.com/apparel to purchase all of your apparel needs. Go to startingstrongman.com/sponsors. Support the people that support us. You can use the Amazon affiliate to do all of your holiday shopping. We all got holidays coming up, and doing it on Amazon saves you a lot of grief. So anything that you would normally buy on Amazon, just go use the link amazon.startingstrongman.com or the banner link at startingstrongman.com/sponsors. Really helps support this show and keep on with great guests. This week we have Dani Schwalbe. Dani is incredibly strong. She's a national champion. She was podiumed at the Arnold and then won Strongest Woman in the World. There was a bit of controversy involved in that contest, and we talk about it. And, I think she's probably on her way to breaking the log press record and other stuff. So without further ado, listen to this week's episode with Dani. Welcome to Strong Talk Podcast. I'm Kalle Beck, joined by strongest woman in the world, Dani Schwalbe. Or Schwalbe. I know I probably said it wrong. I'm the worst at this. But how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
It's not too bad. Just been recording so many of these interviews, like kind of just stockpiling them for lack of a better word. That's like, oh yeah, I got to do this one. But so you've been in the sport for not that long now. What, about maybe 2 years now?
A little over a year. I started last July.
Okay, so not even a full 2 years, barely a year, which is incredible. So, and you have a ton of accomplishments already. Kind of jealous, really. It's like, is it that easy, or?
No, I think I was made for this sport, honestly. I grew up with my dad, a total redneck. I mean, pick up this log and throw it in the back of the truck. Always working with firewood, which is a huge blessing for all the carry events and basically anything, just picking up heavy stuff, working my whole life. I did firefighting, and then I'm a PE teacher. So I've been involved in sports my whole life, college sports, and had a background in strength. Had the best strength coach in the freaking world at my college. He now coaches at Auburn. He's their strength conditioning coach. So I was pretty blessed with everything. And then trying strongman, I fell in love with it. You get to get dirty and pick up heavy stuff. So it just kind of came naturally. Not that it's an easy sport whatsoever, but I was kind of prepped for it already.
Yeah. So everything in your life kind of led up to that point. You're up in Idaho, and
Mm-hmm.
It seems like kind of grew up a lot of outdoors, lots of kind of the farm activity. So you just kind of, I grew up on, even if I'm in California, I grew up on a farm too. So you're just always moving heavy stuff. You kind of have to.
Mm-hmm.
I was always hay bales here, and I feel like it does have a great carryover, with a farm strength, because it's kind of what strongman is. As I've always classified it as like manual labor for sport.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Where it's different in that way compared to like weightlifting or powerlifting, where everything's very static and like balanced, calibrated. Where strongman, it could be anything and everything. So it's a whole different way to do it. So what sports did you play growing up that transitioned into this?
Well, my main sports in college was soccer and track at BSU, but I did everything in high school. Basketball was one of my favorites. I wasn't very good. I had the worst shot on the team. I'd break layups all the time, but I had fun doing it. Then as I aged and did random sports recreationally up until the last couple of years, roller derby was super fun. Rugby for a little bit. I had a blast doing that. Yeah, and I still play soccer occasionally because I coach, but I put on I think 15 pounds total doing strongman and just trying to build that size up. So it's a little harder playing soccer now. My change of direction is not nearly as fast.
Yeah, that's a good point where you are moving with events in strongman, but it's very, everything's kind of in a straight line for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Which is different, except for like a stone series where you're kind of, shuffling your feet, hopefully. But we don't really see those very often now, it seems. Everything's reps.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with that stone of steel, super lightweight, super high reps.
Yeah, I saw that. So how did it actually, how did it actually come to you got into the sport?
I got invited to a local competition, and I had nothing going on that weekend. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll try this out. And there was this girl that I met at the gym previously, like a week before, and I knew she did a sport. So I contacted her. I was like, hey, Jess, I know you do strongman. I'm doing this competition in a week. Can you help show me some of the events? And she's like, yeah, I'm doing that competition too. It was super sweet. And I was like, gosh, I'm competing against you, and you're being so nice to me. We ended up becoming really good friends. I'm actually in her wedding next year. And she just showed me like, hey, this is the sport. We're all a family. We help each other out, and it's fun. So I fell in love with the sport after that contest and met a lot of my best friends doing the sport. So, yeah.
So, but how does that go about though? Like, did you know anything about it, previously until someone said you should do this contest?
Yeah, they're like, hey, you look pretty strong. You want to come do this contest? I was like, what do you do? They're like, I don't know, pick stuff up and put it down. I was like, perfect, sounds good. And then I showed up.
That story is just echoed so many times where, like, someone that competes is in the gym and they see someone doing, something impressive, either like a big guy or like, I swear I've interviewed so many people where they're like, or I've heard interviews, especially with the guys who are like, I was bouncing at a bar and this guy that came in was like, hey, how much do you deadlift? It's like over and over. So, that word of mouth keeps the sport growing.
Oh, for sure. And now I get to do that all the time. Like, right. I'll see people at the gym, and I'm pretty social anyway, so I'll go up and be like, hey, you look pretty strong. You ever tried strongman? Blah, blah, blah. This is what you do. Come try it out. And especially now that I have some of my own equipment, and I have my whole gym at school has strongman equipment, so I get to show people how to do it, and hopefully they fall in love with it and want to pursue it, which is a lot of fun. I love growing the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an interesting thing is, like you said, you're a PE teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you have some of the equipment. How have you incorporated, the strongman movements and implements into your kids' training?
So I don't force them to do it. What we do at the beginning of the year, we always do a fitness test, and then we go over, like, what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish on, like, in my class, basically? So some of them that have cardiovascular goals, like, I want to do cross country and I want to be on the team, or I want to do this and this. Like, I have to structure their program differently than people who are like, I want to put on size and I want to build strength. So we assess all of that, and then I introduce them to strongman. I show them the events. I'm like, if you're interested in this, your program is going to be different. And I actually ran a competition last year at the end of the year for some of my kids that wanted to do it. So we had like a little strongman group. Sometimes we'd meet after school, especially for the kids that didn't have my class. And they would practice events. They would do strength training, like, hey, these are your weaknesses. This is what we need to work on. And they were super into it, committed. So they're the only ones that actually do strongman, because I don't want to force kids to do something that they feel uncomfortable with. And a lot of the stuff is pretty heavy for them to begin with. Like, the log that I have is 75 pounds empty. So some of them can't even pick that up, and they're intimidated by it and don't want to do it. So I don't want to force them to do something that they're going to hate, and feel uncomfortable with. And then the stone of steel that I have is 110 pounds empty. So a lot of them can't pick it up. But the ones that are into it, like, I had a kid press 205 on the log, and he wasn't even impressed with it. He's like, I don't know, I feel like I should be at like 230 already and stuff. I'm like, okay, you're 5'2", you're 160 pounds, you're doing great. This is awesome.
How old is he?
He's a senior, so he's 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's super impressive. I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I incorporate it like sporadically. And eventually what I want to do is write up a curriculum for strongman. So do like a 3-week unit on strongman, do a powerlifting unit, even though I don't know much about it yet. I'm going to learn and hopefully do a unit on it. Introduce CrossFit and all types of stuff, just so my kids can have like a taste and see which one they like. Like, oh, I really like strongman and I love all the different events and it's fun that it's always changing. You never know what you're going to do at a contest. Or I really liked powerlifting. I like that there's only 3 lifts and I like that it's a 1 rep max or whatever, you know, just kind of expose them to every sport so that they can pick what they want to do.
Yeah. And
It'll be fun, but
I found that, it's a whole different mindset of how you think, which draws you to one or the other for that exact reason. Where when I started, I didn't know what strongman was, and I did powerlifting, and I got so bored, because I'm like, okay,
yeah.
but you know, where it was fun, just learning all these different things. Where there's other people, they want to focus like on weightlifting, where it's, you know, 2 very technical lifts, or you know, powerlifting. It really depends on how your mind works, really, to see what you're going to enjoy. Like, some people hate that they don't know what's going to be at a contest, or, you know, this log feels different than theirs, so they didn't perform. They get super, like, you know, weird about that, where, you know, powerlifting is very standard, which is the exact reason I find it boring. So, you know, there's
same here. And I'm very like, I like chaos. And that's why I'm a good PE teacher. You know, it's controlled chaos all the freaking time. I'm super ADHD, so bouncing around from one event to the next and always having change is really good for me.
Yeah, it keeps it fun. But
yeah,
I'm sure that, you know, and you're offering to the kids. It's like you said, not all of them are going to want to do it, but the ones that do probably think it's super fun, because the other thing about strongman is it looks cool, and it's not something that they have probably ever been exposed to, or just saw, you know. I guess now I don't think kids grow up watching like old World's Strongest Man reruns on ESPN anymore, but they might have seen, like, you know, an Eddie Hall video like shared on YouTube or something. And
yeah, and my kids look that stuff up now. They're like, oh, I just saw this, you know, and they come to school all excited about it. So that's really fun to see.
No, that's awesome. So you did your first local contest. Did that contest last year qualify you for nationals?
No, that wasn't a qualifier. That just kind of opened my eyes that, hey, I really like this sport. And then the owner of the gym was like, you're pretty good at this. We should get you qualified for nationals. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. And so I went to Squim and did my first like big contest there. And I think it was like 3 weeks after my first contest. I was like, I have 3 weeks to go. And I like creeped the competitors, and Rebecca Roberts was competing, and I looked at her videos. I was like, she's so strong. Like, there's no way. I was like, I wonder if she's nice. Like, I was so freaking nervous, you know, going to my first like out-of-state contest to qualify for nationals. I didn't know what I was getting into or if I'd even be good enough. So I went and like, I introduced myself like, hey, I creeped you on Facebook. And she was the sweetest thing ever. So we became friends, and I just loved the sport from then on out. And it was a cool contest. Like, the promoters were freaking awesome. I had a blast there. So after that, I think it was like 6 or 8 weeks later was nationals. So it was just kind of boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, that's not any time at all. And
no,
you know, and so how did you do at that first contest?
Good. It was a battle. It was head to head the whole time, and then I won the last event with stones and ended up winning the contest. But I had a couple big mistakes. Like, there was a yoke walk and then a sled pull. And so I did pretty good on the yoke, and then I grabbed the sled, and it was a lot lighter than I thought and slippery. And so I freaking like fell and ate it. So that was a big learning curve. Like, oh, hey, if you're training on different surfaces, because the ground that we were at the contest was super smooth, flat. And I was used to training on gravel, hard, half the time uphill, it seemed like, and heavier. So a big learning curve there. And then Rebecca obviously smoked me on the deadlifts. I think I hit a PR of like, 8 reps at a lightweight, and Rebecca just busted it out. I didn't even slow down. It was just cardio for her. So, barely won that contest. And then, but I think top 3 qualified for nationals anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. But
yeah, but you know, still just very new into the sport, and Rebecca's a world-class competitor, you know, herself, and you know, accomplished powerlifter, I believe, as well. So.
Oh yeah, her numbers in powerlifting are ridiculous.
So yeah, that's definitely impressive. So you know, at that point, it's not like you had too much specific training even for strongman at all. It's just whatever, you know, natural ability you already brought.
Yeah, and so, and part of it, like you were saying, you know, like you don't really have access to all the equipment or know what kind of equipment they're necessarily going to have at the contest. And so I'd never touched a circus dumbbell in my life, which is now one of my favorite events. But I was at that contest and I look at this dumbbell and I'm just like, what on earth? I have to put this over my head? Like, this is huge. How do I even grab it? And I had no idea what I was doing. So I didn't even warm up for the first little part. I was just trying to watch people, and then I go pick it up, and I just look so awkward and so stupid. And Higa is there. He's one of the judges, and he helps me. He's like, this is what you do, blah, blah, blah. And was like super sweet, didn't judge me or laugh at me at all. And I was super embarrassed. And so that was cool that he just kind of calmed my nerves, showed me how to do it. And then I ended up winning that event, which was awesome because it was axle, clean and press, and the circus dumbbell. So, but yeah, it was just a really good experience overall, like how nice everybody was, especially with me still learning the events, even learning right there at the contest, the events that we're doing. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's a little different training on a dumbbell than a circus dumbbell.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. Yeah, but then now with the numbers you're hitting on the circus dumbbell are insane. We want to go over that real quick, like some of the overhead numbers you've put up, at least in training.
Yeah, I have some work to do on my left arm. Lisa challenged me. She's like, yeah, let's see what you got with your left, because her right arm's hurting her right now. And I'm like 27 pounds less with my left than I am with my right. So a couple of muscle imbalances going on there.
Well, that's pretty normal though, but on you know, and even with your left, you're putting up numbers that, you know, myself took me years to hit. As a, you know, like I remember the first time I hit like 120 pounds on a circus dumbbell, and I was like, you know, that was good. That's like what the weights were at nationals for a lightweight guy for a long time. So what you hit what was the one you hit on the right side? It was like 160 something?
167.
Yeah,
160.
So almost 170 pounds, and then 140, it was like 145 on your left.
140, I think, 140.2.
And then which is just ridiculous. I don't know if you even realize how ridiculous of. I'm sure plenty of people have told you, but like I don't think there's no one else doing that right now.
Well, I kind of got to dominate the pressing world because my deadlift is pretty pathetic. So I got some making up to do.
So what's your deadlift at?
440.
Yes, only 440 pounds.
Well, those girls in my weight class are just killing it. They're at like 465, 500. So, and they crush me on the reps too. I don't have the muscle endurance for my posterior chain at all.
Sure.
But I'm working with Matt Waddles, who's the most amazing coach I've ever had in my entire life, and he's helping me a ton on everything. So I'm really grateful for that, building up my weaknesses.
Absolutely. And your log, it seems like you need to get in a contest that has a max log to break a world record.
Yeah, they never do those. Oh, I freaking love max log. I do it in training all the time, a little too much. Matt's like, don't max, you're doing this. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, whoops, I accidentally maxed. But I have so much fun with it. But yeah, it's hard finding a contest that has it. So we're running a contest April 8th in Meridian, Idaho. Actually, I think it might be Eagle technically, but at the Harley-Davidson store. And the night before our contest that we're running, we're doing a world record breaker so that I can do log. So I'm freaking pumped on that.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. I want to try to hit, hopefully, I won't tell you my number now because then if I don't hit it, I'll be all. But I got it written down.
Well, I know what the world record currently is 250 pounds for women. So, you know, anything over that is just going to be icing, you know, just you might just want to shatter it, I'm assuming. I'm pretty good at guessing numbers, so I know what number I've always wanted to hit, and I'm going to assume that's close to what you do.
What's your number?
I've hit in training like 295 at least 10 times, and every time I've, like, you know, 280, 290, I've hit those numbers plenty of times, but every time I've ever put 300, 301, 305, I've always missed it. So eventually I'd like to get past that 300 mark.
Yeah, those 2.5 are deceptively heavy. It's ridiculous. I'll do that on pressing too. Just 5 pounds makes a world of difference.
Absolutely, especially on pressing event. But it's just sometimes there's this. It's almost better when if you are somewhat like naive about some of the numbers, and you're not like me that like studies all this stuff where but like for there's certain numbers like that in training where it's just that number just gets in your head, and it's hard to pass. But
yeah. So my goal, not for this contest, my goal overall is I want to be the first woman to press 300 pounds on the log. But I got a lot of work to do. I was doing push press the other day, and I posted that video, 255 on push press. Well, before that video, I failed 265 like 6 times because I wasn't giving up. I was like, oh, I'm close. I got this. And I was with my kids, and they're all cheering me on, and I didn't want to let them down. And then by my 6th failed attempt, they're like, maybe you should lower the weight a little bit. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. So then I dropped down and hit 255. But
yeah, you have to love it when a high school kid's the voice of reason with your training.
I know, seriously. Yeah, they're always helping me out. They're my little critical friends all the time. It's great.
Yeah, but 300 that's definitely pushing things in a whole new category. But I don't see why it wouldn't be possible eventually.
Oh yeah, it's totally possible. And I don't have a time limit set on when I want to accomplish that. I want to hit my other goals first, but eventually, that's the big one. I'll be hitting that someday.
Absolutely. So you qualify for nationals. It was, it's about a month and a half after that contest. You go and and now you're competing against 20 women who are all, super high level in your class, and there's over 200 people there. How was that experience when you showed up at nationals?
Oh, it was overwhelming. Even going to the rules meeting, I was looking around. I was like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? And I didn't think that I really deserved to be there. I didn't think I was strong enough. I didn't think I was ready. I was like, maybe I should just take like a year to get stronger and to learn the sport and then go. And even some of like my friends who I'd lifted, not like, anyways, a couple of my friends had been like, I don't know, man, I don't think you're strong enough for this. Maybe you shouldn't go do it. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, even if I suck, it's not like anything bad happens. I just lose. So I ended up going, was super nervous. And my dad and sister got to go, which was freaking amazing and the biggest help ever. And then, I met some of the girls. They were super nice, and I was just overwhelmed like the whole time. But I had so much freaking fun. I loved it.
Yeah, and it was a 2-day contest, and and it's always, I always say it at nationals because like I obviously pay attention to who's winning and who's going. You kind of look at like the names before it, and you go, okay, I think she has a good chance to win, but she could win or something. And then like after day 1, I'm like, there's always, at least in one of the class, if not a couple, there's those people like, who's that? And then you and then like someone else, then I get a bunch of messages like, hey, who's this person? And that was you last year. There's always an unknown person that just comes out of nowhere and just does really well. And I think, didn't it end up coming down to the last event?
Yeah, kind of. What did happen?
It's so long ago. I know.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
If I remember right, you and Brittany were like right neck and neck, like kind of back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah, we were really close the whole time. Yeah, I think it did come down to the last event, and then I didn't even win that last event, but I beat her on it, and so that put me in first overall.
Yeah, I believe Caitlin Burgess won that event, I think.
Yeah, she smoked that event.
Which was
all I had to do was beat Brittany, and then so I won it because she didn't have enough. Caitlin didn't have enough points to win overall by winning that event.
And it was a sandbag carry medley.
Yeah, the sandbag carry medley, and the floor was super slippery. Yeah, that was a crazy event. Yeah, she smoked that event.
Yeah, that's something that I don't think people. We keep bringing it up as the surface you're competing on when you're doing this is so important, and there's so many different changes. Like I remember it, like that was in an expo hall. The first time I competed in an expo hall, I screwed myself because like if we're doing like a backward sled drag on that same kind of surface, and of course if you're doing that in a parking
Oh.
lot, rock climbing shoes work good. And so I
Mhm.
like didn't have any of the right shoes to, and then after that I was like, okay, I need to bring all of my shoes, even if I don't think I'm going to use them for stuff like this.
Yeah, seriously. And that's the sport right there. It's amazing how much stuff is in my gym bag now.
Yeah. Yeah. Your strongman is the sport of gear whores. That's for sure. Like
Mhm.
you need your different sleeves for this, your different, I brought like 6 pairs of shoes to an event.
Yeah.
It's you have to be high maintenance to do this sport.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, big time.
you win nationals, which is a huge accomplishment. A lot of people, they train for a decade to win nationals, so you just show up, and at that point, what was that like? Just
Um Overwhelming a bit, and then I felt a lot of pressure going into the next contest because I just got into it because it was fun. I liked lifting. I loved the people that I was meeting and how much fun I was having. And then all of a sudden, like winning that, I felt like I was expected to do good in the sport. And I was like, gosh, like it's a lot of pressure. And so for a couple weeks, I struggled with that. And then I was like, no, it is still just fun. It's what I'm doing. It's what I love. I get to pass it on to kids, and it's cool, like me doing well at contests, because then it makes me more credible as a teacher for my kids. You know what I'm saying? Like if I go and I don't do that well, they're like, well, who am I learning from? You don't even do good. So I think that's been really a huge blessing for me, doing good, just so that I can show them like, hey, like I'm doing really good at these contests, and now maybe they'll trust me a little more to teach them, because everybody does that, like with whatever coach, like, all right, what do you have to offer? Are you going to be a good coach? Do I like your programming? Do I like this? And questioning it. So I think that was probably the best part for that.
yeah, I don't think that there's anything that's going to help you with training high school kids more when you outlift them, to give you credibility. Like, why should I listen? Why should I listen to you? But you're like, well, I can bench more than you, bro. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
most people. I don't think like if they haven't met you or don't know anything about and they see you, they're not going to think that. But
Yeah.
which I think that's definitely going to help. And it like people, they say certain things about the sport, but if you do work in physical education or fitness industry or something, it does help build a resume. Like you're able to add a title like strongest woman in the world. That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's another good point you make where you say, I was just, oh, this seems like a fun thing I'm going to do. Then you just, and then it seems like other people recognize that you could be really good at it, and they start pushing you to do more and more, and then that pressure comes where it can easily become not fun. I know I've had that at certain
Mm-hmm.
points where it's like, and I think a lot of athletes get that, where they lose focus of why they started this in the first place. Is they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that looks fun in a way to push myself, and then you start to get good, and everyone's like, oh, I bet they're gonna win this, they're gonna win that, even if it's just a couple people, really. And you start putting that pressure on yourself where you feel like, okay, well, I have to go compete now at the Arnold, or I have to go back to nationals, etc., because people
Mm-hmm.
expect me to do good. And then it can easily not become fun because it feels like something you have to do
Yeah,
eventually.
and as far as that goes, it's not like it pays the bills. In fact, it's expensive to travel, hotel room, getting time off work. Like so we had a week. I had a week with my kids, and then I had to leave for Florida. And so I was super stressed out. Like, I only get a week to establish my classroom, and then I have some sub taking over for my kids. This is horrible. So
Mm-hmm.
that can be a big stress for me. And it's like, I'm not making a ton of money doing this sport. And so like I'm spending a lot of money to travel around. If I could travel to contests for free, I would go to every freaking contest if I had time off work, because it is fun and I love it and I enjoy it. But financially, it's a struggle with this sport.
Oh, I can't tell you how much money I've saved since I stopped competing. Like,
Yeah, I
it,
can imagine.
that
My gosh.
that used to be like all of my extra money would go to that. Now, you could actually buy stuff for like, hey, do you want to go do this? Or maybe I could eventually take like a real vacation now, but
yeah.
I don't think people realize that, because I get messages all the time like, "Hey, are you going to be at this contest, or are you going to be at this one?" I'm like, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't like fly to North Carolina. Just like I'd like to, but that's going to be $1,000 like before everything's done, before flight and food. Yeah,
Yeah.
no one's really getting rich doing this, but which
No.
so then so it has to stay fun, and you can still compete at like a local level and keep it fun, like even if you are good.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
So you win nationals, you start feeling pressure, and then of course now you have to compete at the Arnold. And by this point, I imagine that you're, you're kind of getting, you meet the best part about going to nationals, I find, is that you just met all these people from all over the country that do it. And you make great friends. Besides, all the competing, that's the best part. So by that point,
I totally agree with that.
So by that point, once you went to like a nationals, you're pretty like you kind of, then you're in the community, if that makes sense. Like you've networked, you've connected with this person, who then you connect with this person, and you all start following each other on Instagram and whatever, and keeping tabs, and it's like really a part of your life. So then who qualified for the Arnold. There's obviously international athletes that are coming that you probably don't know. So how was that leading up to the Arnold, and training for it, and being, I assume, a little more involved in the actual like sport?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, because making like Lisa and Kristen, two of my best friends, I love talking with them. So I was super excited to go just to see them again, because I never get to see them outside of strongman competitions. So that was a lot of fun, just looking forward to seeing my girlfriends. But I completely overtrained. So I was one of those people that was like, more is better, more is more. I trained 6 days a week, always doing events, ridiculous volume, and I just felt like crap all the time. My body wasn't holding up. I had ribs out of place. I couldn't pick up a 20-pound dumbbell without it hurting. And so even going to the contest, I was like, gosh, I don't even feel like lifting my CN. And I'd never had like an experience where I was like, I don't want to lift. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get out of bed. And so I quickly learned about CNS, especially now that I switched over and started training with Matt, because I told him everything, like how I felt leading up, because I didn't start training with him until after the Arnold, which was a big like blessing for me. So I told him how I felt. I told him how I wasn't motivated to lift. I wasn't feeling good. Day 2 came around and I didn't even want to show up. And it's a big deal making it to day 2, making it to the main stage. And I was so fried. I was like, I don't even want to be here. I'm exhausted. I want to go to bed. I don't feel good, which is not me at all. Like, I'm always super excited to lift, super excited to be around my friends and just have fun picking stuff up. So it was cool talking with Matt and learning, like, you don't train like that. You don't train 6 days a week doing events all the time and pushing your body to the limits. So now I only train 4 days a week, and I'm way stronger. My numbers keep going up. My body actually has time to grow and recover, so it was easier to gain weight. For the Arnold, I was at like 173, and I couldn't pass it. I couldn't put on weight, and it's because I was training too much. And then after I started training with Matt, with all the rest time, my muscles actually grew, and I got up to 184-ish. So, I learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like you did bad at the Arnold, though. I mean,
no, I just didn't hit the numbers that I wanted to hit for myself.
Sure.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't really compete against other people as much as, like, I know what I want to do. I know what I'm capable of, and I want to do that. And it sucks because I didn't have any of my family there, which is, I know it's silly. Like, I'm 29 years old, but I love having my dad, my mom, my sister there supporting and stuff, and I was all by myself. So that wasn't as fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get it. And what, you play second, though?
Third.
Okay, yeah. I think, Caitlin got second.
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that, Caitlin. I'm sure she'll understand. But, yeah, that was, and what I don't know if you're aware or not, but, like, being in the sport for a long time, like that Arnold and being there and seeing like the level, especially that the middleweight women have like risen up to, is just it's insane. Like that, how much better they've gotten over like in the past 2-3 years. That class is just stacked now. Between there's what five, about a little, about probably 10 athletes that are really good, and now that there's a pro class, obviously, which we'll get into that, but and deservedly so, because now there's a depth in that division, which just there's it seemed like there's always like one or two and that were good, but the weight class has changed as well, but it seems like that's the fastest growing division from what I can tell, as far as the feats that you're all accomplishing. So there's no easy contest at a high level in the middleweights.
Yeah, definitely not.
And then which of course then leads to the strongest woman in the world contest. And I don't think anyone knew about this. Was this announced before the Arnold going into it? I don't think so.
No, It seemed kind of like a last minute thing, like, oh, hey, this will be good. Like, let's do a random freaking strongest woman in the world contest. And it's like, oh, okay, good idea. And they announced it. So they decided that we all got our pro cards for making it to day 2. So the top four at the Arnold got their pro cards. Yeah, after the fact. So we didn't even know this. We didn't even know that a pro card was on the line or anything. And so we're like, oh, cool. Like, and we don't even really know what it means because it's so new. This just came out for women. So we're just kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. And then it was like, well, actually, we changed our mind. Like, you don't get your pro card unless you come to this contest and compete in Florida. So it kind of forced us to go. And we're like, what? Like, can you even do that? You just, like, go back on your word, but whatever. And it sucked for a couple of the ladies because there was a couple people that were injured. They got invited and that would have been able to go, but they were hurt,
Sure.
So who knows how they would have done there. But, like, one girl broke her wrist. There were just a couple things all over the place with athletes that were injured. And it was so last minute, so unplanned for that there's nothing they could really do about it. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. I didn't learn about that fact until after that contest, that you had to go to then like actually get your pro card. Mm-hmm. I heard a little bit leading up to it, and so I know a bit of why it seemed last minute. There's a lot going into it. Because of course the contest I put on, California's Strongest Woman, qualified people for it. So I was people were waiting on official news so they could announce it, so I could announce it. So like the whole time I'm like, I know the winner of this contest is going to win it, like qualify for this, World's Strongest Woman or whatever it's going to be called show. But I can't say anything, and like I'm doing the rules meeting, and I'm really want to do it, and I'm texting. I'm like, what can I'm like, okay, can I say that this is going to also qualify you for something else, which is going to be cool? And they're like, yeah, sure. So I do that, and everyone like, no one pays attention, but like no one like got it or paid attention. That's it's like if you're able to say this is going to qualify you for the strongest woman in the world, like I figured everyone would be like, oh, and of course promoting the contest, I would have drawn a lot of more people to it, but. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those parts of the sport where this person has to, and to the credit, it did happen eventually, and there was good prize money put on, which I've never heard about before, so that has to be commended for sure. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there was a lot of anticipation leading up to that contest. So let's just talk about that. How was that experience?
I was really looking forward to it because I liked the events. I loved that there was 2 pressing events. Pressing's my favorite.
Absolutely.
I wish they were a little heavier, though, because it was freaking cardio, like hitting 12 reps on the log. The only thing that hurt were my lungs. I was like, geez, man, I don't freaking want to do this for days. Let's add 30 pounds and I'll hit like
but
six.
They weren't light, though. Like, maybe for you, but...
Oh, they were light, Kale. They were light.
Yeah, maybe...
There was girls... I mean, Lisa hit 8 reps.
Yeah,
and then next was like 7. A couple girls got 7.
Those are good numbers, 8 or so. But what was the log? What, 180?
175.
175. So it's pretty much body weight. I think, you know, for obviously it's a pro show, but it's the first one. So it's kind of hard to gauge where everyone is, but like a 200-pound log, if they would have announced that, everyone would have said you're insane. And I think, you know, you would have all risen to the challenge for the most part. Mm-hmm. But I think it was a good selection. I just don't think that people are aware of how good some of the middleweight women have gotten.
Yeah.
You know, I've always said if you think it's too light, do so many reps that they're forced to make it heavier, like with a new weight class. Like, because, but when I was doing the 175s, like we had like a 200-pound log for reps and stuff at contests. So I was like, geez, just make this heavier, please. But yeah, I think so. Yeah, you hit 12, 13 reps on the log and like 14
reps. Yeah,
and was it 13 or 14 on the dumbbell, which wasn't
yeah,
really
14 on the dumbbell.
And what was that, 100 or 120 pounds?
110 pounds.
110, right in the middle. But yeah, so I think it was too light for you, but for a pro show, I think those were good weight selections.
Yeah, for the circus dumbbell, second place got 4 in my weight class. I mean, that was a good weight, I guess, on average, but
sure.
And same on like deadlifts and stuff where I struggle. I wouldn't want the weight super heavy, so I get that. But hopefully now they're up in the log just because we all were hitting some good reps on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was an interesting contest, and like it was mixed in with a men's Platinum Plus contest and you guys, but only the strongest woman in the world did day 2 events. So
yeah.
It was very competitive, and after day 1, there was, you know, the 3 of you were basically tied, we'll say.
Yeah, we were pretty close. Well, me and Lisa were tied for first until apparently her and Caitlin tied on deadlifts, and they gave Caitlin the win on it, and then they went back and were like, oh, actually, they're going to split the score on deadlifts because they tied. And so that dropped Lisa down by 0.5 points. So then she was tied in second place with Kimberly and put me in first.
Yeah, so it was decided by half a point going into day 2, which there's only 2 events on day 2, which was circus dumbbell and stone of steel. Mm-hmm. And I don't think too many people are aware, but like at a contest, and only the top 4 was it? Moved on to day 2?
Top 5.
Yeah, it was different. I think.
Yeah, and they did percentage on it, but yeah, there was 5 of us for day 2, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was like the top 40% or something, because I think some classes had 5.
Or maybe it was 4 of us. Maybe it just was 4.
Yeah, but so they do a thing where if there's a cutoff going into day 2, and this happens at other international contests, like I think the Strongman Champions League, like 90 kilo guys did something similar, where then of course now you don't, like, let's say you have 19 points, someone has 17, it's not going to end up where it's like 19 and 17 and going into day 2. They normalize the events, the scores to make it, because then the day 2 is not going to matter as much.
Yeah.
Which it's all kind of weird because, like, in my mind, I feel like there was only like 10 or so of you guys in general, like just everyone compete on day 2 but these things happen.
That's what I thought too.
But they normalize the score, and there's a little bit of confusion with the normalization and that change. So how it ended up in the first place was the top 3 pretty much went in tied, even though you should have had a 0.2 lead. We found out later. So what were you thinking going into day 2? It's this close. You have really stiff competition. I'm sure you want to win. There's $4,000 on the line. Circus dumbbell was the first event.
Yeah, and I felt pretty confident on the circus dumbbell. but I knew Lisa was going to be bringing it, and she could have hit a ton more, but her shoulder was hurting. And then she found out, I can't remember exactly what was wrong with it, but her shoulder was legitimately hurt, or she would have easily gotten second on that event. And it was fun, like talking trash and stuff back and forth before going into the contest. Like, hey, what are you going to hit on this? What are you going to hit on this? So that sucked big time that she had her shoulder hurt for that. And then going into stones, I was a little bit nervous on that, just because I don't like that stone of steel at all. It's a freaking grip strength. I want to do a heavier stone, use tacky, get dirty. But yeah, so pretty confident on the events. But the whole scoring system, I feel as an athlete, I don't want to worry about what the judges have to do. You guys worry about the scoring. I'm going to show up to compete. That is what I do as an athlete. And my coach couldn't go. He went to Masters Nationals for his wife, Amy, watched her compete, and then he had his competition for powerlifting that he did. So he couldn't travel down to freaking Florida, miss out on his work, all his clients that rely on him to go watch me compete, which traveling with a coach is a huge benefit because they can deal with the score and all that stuff going on. So what happened with the scores was kind of crazy, because me and Lisa being tied for a couple hours day one with 29 or 28 points, I think, and then Kimberly at 27.5 or whatever. And then they did the conversion, and me and Lisa were tied for day two conversion at 11.6. And Kimberly, on the score sheet that people screenshotted and had pictures of, was at 11.4. So they had the score right. And I believe on Excel sheets, you don't have to plug in the numbers or do the math. It does it for you,
Right.
So unless you go in and alter it, you're going to get 11.4 for Kimberly's score. And then when they dropped Lisa down, it was Lisa would have dropped down by 0.5 points and would have been at 11.4. And I would have remained at 11.6 since my score didn't change. So what they did, and I don't know how this happened, because you can't really do that on Excel. You just type in, instead of being at 28 points, you're at 28 or 27.5 points. But then rather than bump Lisa down, they just bumped Kimberly up, Right. And so that was just kind of weird. And they tell us right before we go compete, I'm not going to be oh, okay, my score's right, but these girls' score is wrong. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about what I got to do, getting my mind right. Half the time, at my first competition, they're like, hey, you need to get your stuff together. You're up next. You need to pay attention. I was like, oh my gosh, so embarrassed, right? You have to pay attention, which is hard for me being super ADD. I want to look at everything and talk to people. And I'm like, oh, squirrel, shiny object. Oops, I forgot my elbow sleeves or whatever. So I'm getting all my stuff together. I'm not focused on the score at all. I know that I came to do good at the events and to compete. So I hit a PR. I was expecting 12 reps on the circus dumbbells. It was cool hitting 14. Focus on that, then dial it in for the stones, what I got to do, what I need. I'm ready. I brought extra tacky towel, good thing, because someone stole mine right before the contest, during warm-ups. I was like, what the heck? But anyways, that stuff happened, so plan ahead, whatever. Stones went really good, hit a PR at 14, was not expecting to get more than 12, so that was awesome. And me and Kimberly tied on stones. And then rather than do split score like they did for deadlifts, like they did for everything else, they didn't announce that they were doing split times on the stone of steel. But apparently last-minute changes, they did split times. So Kimberly apparently beat me by 0.1 seconds. She loaded the last stone by 0.1 seconds faster than me, so she got first on that event.
Sure.
Which, whatever, I beat her on the first event, and then of that day with the circus dumbbell. So I got first in one, second in one, and it ended up tying us overall, even though I won day one. So having a coach there would have been cool, just because Matt would have caught that. He's so dialed in on that stuff. But me just being in competition mode, ready to compete, I was just like, what? What is happening? How does this make sense? And I was asking questions, and yeah, it didn't go well. And then, of course, the event that I really struggled on, the keg medley, we end up doing a tiebreaker with a keg for max distance, which is one of my worst events. Obviously, after the freaking keg event, but first of all, I barely finished that event, and I got, I think, fourth or fifth on that. And then I'm laying down on the ground, I crawled out of the competition area and was, laying on the ground for half an hour. My dad's, stretching my legs. My whole body seized up. I was down in salt packets. So it was just interesting that was the tiebreaker event, which never should have even happened. So that was an emotional roller coaster. I think the emotions of all that went into it, because I was celebrating the win after stones.
Yeah,
my mom was there. I'm celebrating with my mom, hugging my whole family, called my brother on the phone because he didn't get to come. And called my coach, I won, and like everybody's celebrating with me. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, actually, we're just kidding. Somehow we factored it in that you tied. I'm like, what? So that was the biggest emotional roller coaster of that whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, and that's what I said is after, when I was talking about it afterwards is, what sucked about it is that whether you won or Kimberly won, it took away from that moment that you get when you've worked really hard for something for both athletes.
Mm-hmm.
It took away from that moment you get when you've worked really hard for something and it actually happens.
Yeah.
Which, regards to the money, this or that, like that's the stuff that you remember because, you go back and you there's some goal you want to achieve and you're like, everyone's like, this is going to be hard. This is going to be hard. And you work really hard for it. And then you achieve it. You have that feeling. And like you said, you're already celebrating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
I felt like my heart got ripped out of my chest. And I had already called my coach, and because my coach believed in me, he's like, "You got this. You can win this." And I was the one that was kind of like, "Oh, I don't know," And so having all those positive feelings, those positive emotions, and then having it ripped away, and then so this is pretty brutal. So after that, and my girlfriends were so sweet, Lisa and Kristen run over and hug me because I'm on the ground just heart torn out, how did this happen? I won, and it's not like I haven't ever lost anything before. If you lose, if someone's better than you, they beat you, that's fine. You go back to the drawing board and train your weaknesses up, work on whatever you got to do. But it was, I won this contest and it got taken away unfairly, which was the hard part for me. But having my girlfriends there supporting me was so huge, and that made it okay to an extent. And then so I actually called Dion after all this happened, and I was like, hey, you made a because we were all our entire car, everybody that I was talking to was like, this does not make any sense. And then there was that big Facebook discussion, obviously, but
later in
the day, this doesn't make sense. The scores don't match up. How the heck does this number times this number equal the same number, So I called Dion because I didn't want to make it Facebook. I didn't want to do social media, blow it up hey, Dion, blah, blah, blah on Facebook, So give her the benefit of the doubt. I called her and told her hey, blah, 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 this and that. And she was like, I hate losing too. Just went off on me and didn't let me talk very much. She was like, no, you listen. And I'm like, Dion, I'm trying to tell you something. So that was just probably the worst conversation I've ever had. And I had just gotten off the phone with my coach crying, because he's like, how'd you do? And I was like, I got 14 reps on the dumbbell. I got 14 reps on the stone and somehow got second. So I was just super emotional. And then talking to her and her saying that, I hate losing too. I was like, damn, it's not because I lost. I'm not over here whining oh, hey, I'm a poor loser. I'm like, hey, you messed up. Look at the score sheet. This is your fault. Sure. So that was rough. And then that post happened, and I was going to give her to Wednesday to change it, but that post happened and everybody blew it up on Facebook, and it just, it got a little out of control. So I think Dion felt kind of attacked, which is unfortunate and stuff. And I get the mistakes happen, and then she changed it, owned up to it, which is cool. It just would have been nice if it happened when I had called her versus having to go through all that social media drama and stuff, because that sucked for both me and Kimberly. Nobody wants to see that stuff. So
yeah, and then the athletes, get blamed, which isn't fair at all, because no one wanted that either way. And in the defense, I can't imagine how many calls like that, Dion's gotten with people that don't have true claims. She's been doing this forever. I've heard, I can't tell you how many just people just upset about this or this, and it's just really. So you kind of, So in that defense, but yeah,
and that's
it
a good
does.
Point.
It does suck though, and it was unfortunate.
And everybody put,
but
very true.
But it's the good part about it is that where the sport of strong women seems to be going out of nowhere. I remember just a couple years ago there was the words I heard was there's never going to be a pro women's class. heard that from multiple people just a couple years ago, which now there is. So it seems like, all right. And I think competition helps bring those things about, being that there's been like countless World's Strongest Woman, whatever shows now in the same year when there was none for 10 years or whatever. So that's it. That's a good thing. And,
oh yeah, that's great.
From what I hear, so I want to get in, of course, I wrap this up, and what's next is I hear and about that there's going to be like a big show at the Arnold. I don't know how much of it we can talk about, but is that what your next plan is?
I'm not sure, actually. It depends on a lot of stuff. I mean, school's obviously a big factor. My kids come first. I don't want to lose my job over not being here ever, like, oh, well, I'm pursuing my hobby that doesn't pay me money and lost my job,
Trust me, that can happen.
Yeah. So I got to be careful with that because, I mean, it is so fun to go, like, pursue this and stuff, but it is a hobby, so I have to be realistic with it. So I'm not positive exactly. Right now I'm just doing my off-season training, learning so much from Matt, which is awesome, not only for me as an athlete, but how I teach, what I'm learning to be able to show my kids and stuff. And then I just started coaching over at C of I again, so my schedule's pretty busy. So I'm just focused on just work and having fun, going adventuring and just enjoying life right now. But we'll see what the events are at the Arnold, if I want to go, if I have time to go, how my body is. Everything's kind of up in the air, and I'm really looking forward to my contest. I'm excited for that, and that's soon after that. I mean, that's April 8th, so about a month probably from after the Arnold.
And that's a contest you're promoting?
That I'm helping promote with Amy Waddles. So she's the USS state chair, and Willie's coming down, from USS, so he's going to be there judging it, and the world record breaker is something like, if there's not like a heavy pressing event at the Arnold, and I want to break the world record in the log on April 8th, I might just be like, hey, I need to train for log. I need to get my log up because that's one of my big goals. So those are all factors to consider.
It makes sense. So pretty much if the Arnold has a max log, you're going to go. that's what
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
hearing.
because then I'd win that event. And then, who knows, but I'm just assuming. And then break the world record like a month after, which would be perfect. But I don't want to be having to train for like 2 contests that are conflicting in a row,
Absolutely.
Plus,
plus it is nice to kind of, wake up in your own bed and just go over equipment you're used to, and makes it a lot easier.
For sure.
Thanks for taking the time. I know you have a lot to do, and I appreciate taking the time out of your day. It's been a good chat with the strongest woman in the world. If people
fun chatting with you.
If people want to follow your training or learn more about the contest you're putting on in Idaho, up in Idaho or something, how can they get a hold of you or follow you?
Yeah, they can contact me on Facebook, message me, or on Instagram. I'm on both. So
and what's your Instagram?
You can just type in my name, Dani Schwalbe, and find it pretty easy.
Awesome. And of course,
my username is like.
Yeah, and of course, I'll put that in the show description with all of that info as well. So if people just want to just look in the info, and it'll all be there. And thanks, Dani.
Thank you. Appreciate it.